Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly he's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie.
Right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. How's everyone doing? We're just going to jump into it today. No huge dramas in terms of listening to lots of BTC Charlie song. We're just going to jump into it. Hi, Daddy. Hello, Nasty Jason. Dump it. That one bear 12, really living up to your name. Good evening, Richard. Good evening, Adam. Or hello, I should say, Adam Millionaru? Yeah, that's probably right. Crypto Guap, nice to see you, my friend. Talha. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. Hello. Right, let's jump into it. How's everyone doing? Have you had a good week? Good evenings, gentlemen. Good evenings. 0x Lebowski. GT539Z, let's go. Good evening. Right, let's start off with an announcement. I've partnered with Bluefin, who are a decentralized digital asset trading platform, as it says right in front of you. So it's essentially a decentralized exchange where you can trade using, just your wallet directly. They settle trades pretty much instantly, and they haven't got a huge user base at the moment, but Wintermute is market making for them, and as part of trading on there, you get rewards in terms of their token. So obviously I am partnered with them, and I would say this, but getting in early and getting a reasonable slice of Epoch rewards via tokens may be something for you to consider. I will say no more because I don't want to go to jail, but that is what I will be doing now. I am out of the hospital and free once more. So yes, thank you very much to Bluefin for sponsoring this, and there is a link below if any of you chads want to sign up and explore said exchange. So, let's jump into some charts. Are we all bullish? Bearish? Are we thinking ETF has been approved? I think I saw on the timeline yesterday that pretty much, or maybe not yesterday, maybe the day before, that the ETF has been approved, the ETF has been rejected. Once again, the ETF has been approved and rejected, and once again approved. So it's one of those quite polarizing things that people seem to be taking a view on. Yay, Magus is live, people are happy. I am not Magus. My P&L wishes I was Magus for the last 2 weeks. I don't think he's missed a trade, to be honest. And by missed, I mean lost one. I mean, we all have those hot streaks, but yeah, it's annoying watching other people go through it and not yourself. It's one of those, yeah, I'm really happy for you, but I'm also wishing it was me. Why am I gatekeeping the Rolex Daytona 1997 edition white gold? I do not even wear a watch, my friend, so it is not me. I have zero interest in material possessions. Literally zero. I just like money. Because it's a way to keep score in the PvP game that is trading. And life, really. You can do nice things with money for people. Magus has been on fire, yeah. Frustratingly. I have to admit it, you know. It's good. It's good that he's been killing it. But yeah, how are we all feeling about BTC? And note that I used the word feeling. I don't know if my stream's a little bit delayed or you're all just quiet tonight. Usually I've got a good bit of chat. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to take the piss out of you either. We get 28. Bold. Bold statement. My short does not thank you for that. I'm still short from whatever it is, 27,380 or something. I have not closed it out. Because I'm not wrong. And it's going to 0, etc. Up only tweeted, so we're fucked. Yeah, I like that. Not tradable? Ooh. I don't know, man. I mean, that's kind of like a little baby Pips retest. You know, range, breakout, retest, move up. I think I'm going to have to eat some dick on my short, to be honest. And rationale is kind of exactly what I just talked about. As in, we've had a range break to the upside, that almost retest, not quite perfect. Maybe if I drew my lines a little bit better. And we've seen, you know, a reasonable demand come in. The reason I haven't closed it is twofold. One, laziness, and the fact that I've had to do school duty, shopping, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff, and look after my wife, so there's kind of a little bit of a priority in terms of IRL, and my stop and thought process for that trade was kind of like, it was kind of like up here somewhere, like this high here, and you know, basically this, to range lows at minimum, see if we get any form of reaction down there. Very unlikely given that we've pushed above, and any form of you know, move back into this range here, you know, that would be where I'd look to pile on even more size to that short and actually ride it down for a sort of trend continuation move to the downside since this distribution up here, right? So, you know, the thought process being that we've had this move, we've had this, and then we are getting a weaker move, a lower high, if you will, in terms of this, and not being able to move up to this area would give me that confidence to add even more size onto this for a decent sweep down. You know, minimum take these lows, but start, you know, taking some form of profit probably around here, just at range lows. If we do get any form of divergences, any form of strength showing, you know, that would be where I'd take some off. So I'm still in this position. When we had that strong breakout, I was around to trade it, and actually my thought process was essentially around BCH. It wasn't around Bitcoin in terms of getting to the long side. So I talked about it in my outlook on Monday, and I think I talked about it last week on this stream, that if we get a breakout move off this range to the upside on BTC, you know, last time we saw that, when we saw that strength back here, I think it was, or maybe it was back here, we saw the rally on BCH, and the real, yeah, it was BCH, this real strong move. And equally, we've had sort of similar on BCH this time. So I caught a long on BCH and flipped short on BTC pretty much at the top. And yeah, that was the kind of game plan. To be honest, the game plan wasn't to short BTC originally. It was to short BTC if we had a fake out and move back into the range. That was going to be my trigger. But such is life. So yeah, I caught a nice little rotation on BCH, and it's not been particularly busy for me this week. But I will show you what I mean in terms of that move. Where are we? Saturday. My whole weekend, etc. has just been an absolute blur. So you might have to bear with me. Oh, it's because TRB is fucking it all up. But yeah, the long and short of it is that BCH had a nice rotation. And when Bitcoin has those strong moves, BCH has been a good proxy play, and there's been a tiny bit of delay. Yeah, there you go. There it is. I knew I'd find it eventually. With obviously TRB being exceptional this week in terms of beta and in terms of general volume. Good evening, Eliod, my friend. Hearing rumours that CZ has fled from Dubai. Do you think it's true? I don't know. You know, I don't like to speculate on on these kind of rumours. I don't want to manage my trades based on rumours. You know, there's a very big difference to taking a thought-out news trade. Things like where you know there's a binary outcome, right? So things like the XRP case. You know, we knew that for a long time. We knew that that was pending. We knew that was overhead. I actually gave the perfect trade on this stream somewhere before it. Obviously, if the case went somewhere else, then it wouldn't have done so well. But yeah, it was literally this. It was talking about market structure, and obviously the chart knew all along, etc. Which obviously it didn't. That's a meme. But you know, I remember aping into. I'll do it on a smaller time frame. You know, I remember aping into practically the top. I think it was like a 80-cent entry or something when I was streaming for the Paragon Group up here, and riding it up for like 10% just literally in that candle. So proving that even if you are very fucking late to the party, there's still money to be made if you're managing your risk and, you know, trying to just trend follow on the way up. I don't know why my trading view is being terrible in terms of time, etc. But yeah, I like trading events like that. So if you know that something is going to happen, you know that there's going to be a couple of outcomes, and you can pre-plan what you think the market reaction is going to be. And clearly, I underestimated how far it would go, but you know, I knew that it wasn't going to be a 10% move, right? It just wasn't. If it was in their favor, it was going to be at least, I don't know, whatever this is, 50%, which is pretty reasonable, right? It's a very fucking reasonable you know, day if you capture all of that, which, you know, I haven't really got the facilities to get on board in the first second. You know, I'm not news trading in terms of news trading bots and all that kind of stuff, but you know, as soon as I saw XRP do literally 10% in 1 second on Spaghetti, bang, straight in. Because you kind of knew that that's what had happened. That was epic, yeah. Yeah, it is. Oh, that's a good question. When your markets are pretty dead, what does your usual day look like? Is my internet connection buggering up? Are you disconnecting from Twitch every now and again, everybody, or is it just telling me welcome to the chat room 100 times because my Streamlabs is bugging? That's a good question, though. It really depends on what I'm doing in real life at the moment. Obviously, with everything that's going on, this week hasn't been the standard. So, like, this week's probably an exception. Fine, good, a bit delayed, but okay, cool. So, generally, what my day will look like, assuming that my wife is well and all that kind of wonderful stuff, is I'll get up, I'll make myself a pot, well, not a pot, I'll make myself a cup of shit black coffee, i.e. instant Nescafe Gold. I will trawl my backside to the computer, or I will see my small child and have breakfast with her and do all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'll take her to school, but very rarely, because that's kind of what my wife does, and school run involves socializing with people and stuff. And what I do is I will have this up pretty much constantly. So I have this. I will also have, I'll show you. I have something like this up so that I can see what's going on in the market, and I haven't used this for a little while actually. But usually I'll put coins that I'm interested in. So like instead of YGG, I'd put something like TRB. But because I've been trading pretty much 1 or 2 coins, consistently, I haven't needed this. So usually I've got whatever coins I'm looking at. Now, if I take a step back, every single Monday or sometimes a Sunday, what I'll do is I'll record an outlook for the group. I'll go through my thought processes on things like BTC. We tend to start with Bitcoin, ETH, do TradFi, and then do specific alts and specific alt setups. So this week, looking at things like Sol, looking at Sui, which was a trade idea that I was obviously not around to even think about. The thought process was low time frame. There was how low time frame are we going? I think it was the 5 minute maybe. Oh god, that's horrific, isn't it? Oh, this is good. What the fuck was that? Maybe I was just on crack. I wouldn't have done an RSI there on a 1 minute chart, would I? No. Well, God knows why that's different. But I was talking about divergences, and I was talking about looking for strength on Sui, on the premise that this might be the next, WLD, just on the basis that it has basically been down only. And when we had like Aptos at the start of the year, we basically had a complete sell-off, real strong sell-off, and then actually absolute monster move. We saw it on WLD where we talked about it last stream actually, didn't we? We talked about the 12-hour divergence in terms of momentum, both across RSI and across AO, and obviously that's played out quite nicely in terms of this. A nice 66% move. My alert actually got triggered far earlier than I'd hoped. My alert got triggered here, and I forgot to reset it for the breakout, and that was kind of that. But that's what I do at the start of the week. Is I'll go through all of these charts. I'll go through typically all of these. I'll go through Binance generally, and I will look for interesting setups, levels that I'm interested in participating at, momentum divergences throughout different time frames on coins that I'm potentially interested in, and generally what I'm looking for, I'll just I'll just draw a few things and do some squiggles because I love squiggles. It's a Charlie stream after all, and it wouldn't be a good stream if I didn't squiggle lots of things for you. If I look at something like this, right, I'm not really interested in trading that, right? Why? Oh, it's Charlie, it's a lovely range, you can just buy range lows, sell range highs, perfect. But typically, they require a bit more active management. You'll get some janky stuff, so Aave, which I always want to call Ave because I'm like British, is a real good example of that. That we've got, it's not perfect, I grant you, but we had a good rotation on Aave at the start of the week in terms of both it being visible on Spaghetti and the participation in terms of number ticks, volume, etc, etc. Now, the reason this doesn't interest me so much is because generally, in terms of market structure, it's not particularly great. It's just lower high, lower high, lower high. I don't really want to be in on the first move. I wouldn't want to preempt this unless there was a really strong divergence. I know on a decent time frame. I know on the 2-day. Maybe there was something on the daily. I don't know. It's not too bad actually in terms of this. That's pretty clean. On AO, not on RSI, but you kind of get the picture. You start building a, do I want to trade this? Am I willing to pre-position on this? If not, where and when am I interested in this? And for me, usually it's up here. It's literally at that range high breakout. And the reason for me is that if it does this and it deviates, it's so much easier for you to just get your invalidation and get out of there. But if you've had, an accumulation period of a long time on something like this, or you've had a chart that's down only, which to be fair, Aave has been since these highs up here, the question then becomes, what's the chances of it having a decent rotation? For something like Aave, I'd suggest very little. For something like Sui, which is pretty new and pretty interesting, What's the chances of that having a rotation? I'd say it's much higher than Aave, because Aave's basically seen a cycle, if not two. I think it's just one actually, but still, it's seen a pretty incredible cycle in terms of 2020, 2021. But that's how the kind of planning and thought process goes. You then set some alerts on things that you'd like to see. So you've got a context for your week, right? You've got your high time frame bias, you've got your medium time frame bias, you've got your short time frame or low time frame bias in terms of what you think is going to happen, in the next hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, based on any potential setups in terms of ranges and potential breakouts. Obviously, one thing I use absolutely massively is Spaghetti, and why the fuck wouldn't you, right? Look at it telling you that TRB is just flying compared to the rest of its peers in this. Or if you go to this and you start looking at some of these, I mean, some of them are a bit dodge. But yeah, TRB has been an absolute beaut to trade the last few weeks, and I hope some of you have been trading it. Drop the playlist. Okay. For you, I will. So yeah, there's been, how do I put it, a lot of talk about manipulation, blah blah blah, all this stuff. Like, who gives a fuck? If it's volatile, it's liquid, and you get some great moves either to the upside or to the downside. Honestly, what more could you want other than volatility? Like, volatility and liquidity, to be fair. It's an absolute joy. An absolute joy. And again, so talking back to plans at the start of the week, to be honest with you, it's a good job that I didn't actively trade this on Monday or whatever it was, because I talk about these parabolic curves all the time, and they are not perfect. You can see how this point here just deviates it completely, and that actually there's like these touch points kind of a bit janky. This is kind of to fit a bias, but actually when you start seeing these huge sells, you can kind of glean that this in and of itself is the attempt to end this parabolic move, and actually you've got that confirmation of the lower highs up here, and that typical setup of parabolic move into lower high is my favorite fade of all time. Obviously the downside of the TRB is you've got huge negative funding, so you pay a smart premium for being short and taking the short side, but and it's pretty brutal, this retracement, but that's exactly what you want to see from strong alts if you are trading them long only rotations, which is typically what I do. It's an absolute killer. It's incredible. And I think before the weekend, I was basically trading TRB solidly for like 2 weeks, and a lot of my rotations were TRB because it's liquid, it's volatile, and it moved. And sometimes you get that. So the start of the year it was LDO. I remember last year I had like 2 weeks on CHZ, and I was basically the CHZ order book. And then before that it was the Ape launch, and I basically traded Ape solidly for 2 weeks. There are some times where the volatility, the liquidity, and just the speed of the actual movement is just incredible, and to me those are the times where you should be milking it. And so people who say, I can't trade this, whatever, I as a low time frame rotational intraday trader / scalper, like, that is like literally fucking Christmas. So I can't stress enough that there are times to be active and there are times to be inactive, and I think when you've got cartel pumps like this, I think it's a time to be active. Been enjoying Spaghetti Chart recently, thanks Charlie. You're welcome, my friend. I mean, I think it is absolutely overpowered. I could trade without it, but I wouldn't want to. It just tells me what I always wanted to know, which is what is the strongest horse in the race and what is easier to trade than anything else. And it's kind of like if you've ever watched The Matrix, and when he's, talking to the operator and saying, oh, what's going on? He's like, well, you might be talking to the bad guy, the bald guy. And, says, oh, you kind of get used to it after a while. You can see, like, the codes here, and you can see, oh, there's a blonde, there's a brunette, there's this, that, and the other. It's kind of the same with this, right? There's some intuition required in terms of just getting used to what is a kind of reasonable move and a reasonable place to start taking a position on. And when you've got coins that are in play that are starting to have a great beta rotation, usually that's kind of enough, and then you just find some invalidation in terms of your actual price chart and get on board. I don't want to hindsight LARP trade, but you kind of get the picture. I just checked my DMs on Twitter, on Discord quickly. Don't just jump right into the stream, you noob. Do a starting soon song and let people join in. Cheers, Magus. I just yeeted straight into it today. I'm just excited. I'm just happy. I can't help it, my friends. I can't help it. But yeah, Spaghetti is genuinely very, very overpowered in my opinion. I think it should give you a strong direction as to what to trade. Not necessarily how to trade it, in terms of your invalidation, your levels, and your sizing. There's a lot more nuances than just that, right? But like, this is one of my favorite short setups. Not that I'm going to take it on the highest beta asset of the day, but a load of highs, all swept, and then basically reclaim, or sorry, not reclaim, but if you were converting that, range low, deviation, reclaim, off you go, at least to range highs, and then reevaluate, and then if you get that breakdown and full bar, then that's your kind of next target. Probably not wise to fade the strength of TRB, but usually that's quite a nice distributive pattern at kind of local highs. Oh, I'm flying through it today, aren't I? Absolutely flying through it. What's everyone's opinions on the old Ethereum? Thoughts on AVAX? I don't really have any thoughts on AVAX. AVAX is one of those where, the chart is disgusting in terms of liquidity. Ooh. So, we are looking at daily time frame, and this is very, very clean, to be fair. Let's get that a bit thicker. Hope you've all done my TA masterclass and you've started drawing your lines thicker. Helps with support. If any of you have played Worms and used girders, that's exactly what this is. So, from an AO perspective, that is really clean. RSI, you could just about justify that there is a divergence in terms of momentum, but it's not necessarily an actionable one because that's over 14 periods. But, it's clearly there. There's clearly a nice momentum divergence. Would I just blind take this, given that I'm short on BTC and that AVAX has been pretty weak generally? Probably not, is the answer. I don't like just trying to knife catch lows. If I could see that AVAX had a little move on relative strength, I don't even think it would play out particularly well, but I'm sure I'll be wrong. I try and think of coins as like in play and not in play, and in meter or in the meter or not in the meter, or meta, whatever you want to call it. If you're American, then an AVAX just isn't in there for me. Like, AVAX has had its run, it's been and gone. It's the same as like Link. I know we got a couple of good moves off Link before. We had, some momentum divergences, which we talked about last week. But, for me, Link is just... There are so many better assets to trade. This is still in that huge, like, quote-unquote, accumulation range, where if we do get another huge and significant crypto bull market, yes, it might go on another run, but I sincerely doubt it's going to outperform some newcomers to the space. I think it's kind of had its cycle done. So if you are long AVAX, great. Would I be shorting it at the lows? Absolutely not. I do, however, think there are generally better assets to trade, but yeah, that is pretty reasonable in terms of a momentum divergence. Attack 0. But yeah, I mean, does that kind of give you an insight? Like, I would typically rather long, even if it's just something like this. And it's not clean, but let's pretend those were full-bodied candles, in which case you wouldn't get these divs, but let's pretend this was a bit cleaner in terms of PA and it was just, like this, and then it sold off. I'd rather long that reclaim on the assumption that this part here showed some form of relative strength against the rest of the market, because it would tell me that strength is moving to AVAX, and then that would be like this the shift in market structure, reclaim of a level with some relative strength, and you've kind of got tick, 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 and those three things added together give me a much higher probability that this is going to play out and that we're going to get that move to the upside and sweep this high at least. Do you know what I mean? So that's typically what I'm aiming for. It's the next trade, it's not the first one. Especially knife catching something like this with no relative strength. There is no level. There is nothing. Maybe there is on another chart, but not on the Binance one. Make Twitch keeps freezing? Is it? I've not really got anything open. Twitch is so ass, but keep going. I am live on YouTube, the youest of tubes. Let me chuck the link in, and maybe we use this as an excuse to migrate. We whack this in the Twitch. There you go. Is it the platform? Is it? No, I don't know. But here you go. There's a YouTube link. I think the YouTube link should be better. Oh, you stream at too high quality? Okay, maybe it's that. Someone's asked if they need there's the spaghetti link. So, right, let's get back on it. So someone asked about Solana. I actually had an alert on Solana trigger this week. Unfortunately, I was not here to take the trade at that point, but it was a similar thought process to basically what we went through on AVAX. So I believe there was some form of divergence, maybe not. Maybe there was no div. But it was essentially this range reclaim here. And actually, if I was going to get on board a Sol rotation, it is, as much as the meme would suggest, a diagonal line break with a reclaim, and actually with this, if anything, a consolidation over here, or a strong move up on the start of an uptrend, that's where I want to get on board. And it was this 1924 level, I've squiggled the hell out of that, where I would rather take a position than trying to front run it. But we did have a divergence at the lows. Yeah, maybe it was that. It was that when I was talking about it. Yeah, I recorded it on Sunday, so it would have been down there. It was the same thought process, really, that, there's some divs. Is it particularly actionable? They were actually quite good in terms of, not just because it played out, but because they are at extremes. It is reasonably clean. Every low on the RSI is actually a higher low. There's a small divergence on Awesome Oscillator, not perfect, but yeah. You know, I didn't want to play that. I wanted to play this, essentially. Let's undo that. But, you know, a lot of people talk about Sol being the next big thing, or not the next big thing. They talk about Sol in terms of this is going to be the easiest 5x trade of your life. And, you know, I don't think most people are in a position where their portfolio going 5x is really going to change their life. I don't think that most people generally, you know, great for you if you've got 500k and you go, yeah, all I'm after really is a 5x. I'll be really happy with that, you know, get my 2.5 million and that'll do me. That's a nice like return from a bullish environment. But for me, I would much rather spread some of that money into smaller low caps that have, you know, 50, 100x potential in the right conditions, obviously, and or trade it and manage that risk, because I think Sol as a cyclical play, and maybe it comes back to fruition, but you know, it's going to take a lot for me to kind of get on board Solana, really. And I have pivoted on that a little bit. I did like the idea of buying a huge stack of Sol, you know, round about, I don't know, $8 or something like that, and playing it for next cycle, assuming there is one. But I actually, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think Sol is probably not going to have too much strength against like Ethereum. It'll outperform BTC, I imagine, but not by much, and I think there will be plenty of better alternatives out there. Take a look at ETC. Looks like it's about to bing bong. Because you've said bing bong, I will of course chart Ethereum Classic. Bing bong. What makes you say it's about to bing bong, my friend? What's making us say bing bong? You know, again, we've got a lot of noise in terms of it's not a clean divergence. Like, obviously you want the price action to basically be doing this. And fucking hell, that's horrific. Excuse my drawing, boys and girls. You know, you want price action to be doing that, one momentum is doing that. What's making you think Ethereum, ETC is going to be the next bing bong, as you called it? It's actually almost the perfect illustration of that altcoin roller coaster, though, isn't it? Like, ignore my drawing, and I've casually ignored this, but Doge will be the easiest 5x eventually. Nice, I'm still around. Thought I'd retired after all the money I made on my Friend.Tech keys. I don't even know how much I made. It's probably like a couple $100. I don't even know. But yes, maybe I should shill my Friend.Tech keys a little bit more. I am going to record a spaghetti video. I've done most of my notes. It's going to be for Paragon and Friend.Tech key people. But obviously I've been a little bit preoccupied the last 4 days. You're a holder? Great, I've got 4 of my own keys I'm going to dump on your head. I'm joking. I can't really dump them. Yeah, do that. I've got permission to use you as exit liquidity. No, it's okay, I can assure you, I don't need the money that much. I am quite alright, but thank you very much, my friend. Yeah, I mean, genuinely, like, if you see relative strength on ETC, then yes, it will probably put in a decent rotation, largely because the books will be horrifically thin. It's been a free short for a long time, you know. But it's pretty bleak. I wouldn't be surprised to just see it do this, and it kind of leads me on to, or circling back to ETH, I suppose. and we'll talk about some kind of trade considerations in a bit. But for me, ETH BTC has just been in a downtrend for quite some time now. So, when you're talking about ETC is usually a huge proxy play on ETH. So, that price action looks rather like the ETC chart, and I would want to see something like that to even start getting bullish on ETC purely because of the proxy play. But there is no appetite for ETH BTC on this 3-day chart. Like it's just dire. It's a dire situation. And this is the downside of me playing strength and playing into rotations as opposed to trying to, do trades like this. Now you'll see a lot of people who do this and they do it very successfully, and that is absolutely wonderful for them. And that is very rarely me. But, it comes down to you, your trading style, how much time you've got to dedicate to the market, as opposed to just playing a rotation and being in and out several times a day. One of the main fun Dino coins, yeah, it's a good point. ETC does tend to put in those random candles, as does like BSV. Do you know what I mean? Like BSV will just have a absolutely monstrous run. It'll just die, and you'll think, right, that's it. BSV is finally dead, and then it just absolute melts faces. Even these moves here, like quite ridiculous in terms of returns. Again, you're not going to long the bottom, right? But pretty incredible from a rotational perspective. So yeah, if you're taking a position in it, fair play. I wish you the best of luck. But for me, Ethereum being under this 1670, and I've said this for a couple of weeks now, it's just not attractive to me. It's just not interesting. ETH BTC in a really strong downtrend. We can preempt the break, or we could get on board an actual break up here. If there's confluence with like a diagonal break with a range high, potential break, so we move up like this, maybe a little bit faster, that can be something where actually we've broken a downtrend, a pretty significant one, we've broken a mini range on ETH BTC, and actually it's probably time to start thinking about that rotation into ETH as opposed to BTC, with momentum has started to go favorably, but actually in the last minute has sold off. So this would have been the breakout. I don't know why I'm saying that. It would have been the breakout, but it wasn't fucking pointless information, right? But anyway, this sort of failed. What am I trying to say? This failed momentum, shift to the upside is kind of not great, which is why I wouldn't want to participate here. That's what I'm trying to say. We got there eventually. ETH BTC, yes. Thank you. If you want, you can take a look at ETC ETH chart. Yes, I can. ETC ETH. Let's have a look. Yeah, pretty much nothing. Down, consolidate. I mean, there is an argument which is like the whole, you typically get these moves, right? If you've ever seen like the Bitcoin model of like S1, S2, S3, S4, etc., that you get markup, distribution, markdown, accumulation, markup, and rinse and repeat, and then that cycle goes up or down basically, and you would assume that on that basis that this is accumulation and that there is a move to the upside to be had, but it's just not something that I want to participate in just yet. Like I said before, even if you get something like a trend line break of like here, or sorry, a level break of this, I would much rather be longing that and playing for an upside break there than I would trying to preempt it in here. So hopefully that gives you my thought process and my insight. Bearing in mind, like, I've got more time to be sat here playing intraday rotations, so I fully appreciate that a lot of you won't. But yeah, that's that's how I would approach that particular one. Pepe Blepe chart, let's go. Easy for you to say? Yeah, it's all easy for me to say. And that's half the battle of trading is, executing and having that. Not necessarily, well, I suppose it is an edge. I think execution is an edge. And I think execution is something that you can teach to a point. You can teach rules, you can teach mindset, you can talk to people about their trading, and you can say, if this, then that, lay your best plans out. But in the heat of the moment, sometimes people make stupid decisions. And it happens to everybody, right? I've made a couple of mistakes this year, which has cost me money. I've made a couple of mistakes this year, which have actually made me money. Do I recognize them as bad trades or execution errors? Absolutely, when I'm reviewing them. The upside of trading for a long time is that, I do it less and less. And when I do it, I'm almost instantly aware of what I am doing. And it's not one of those things where you go, that was really fucking stupid. You gotta know what you're doing as you're doing it. And typically act accordingly quite quickly. And equally, when you're planning your week and you're setting up your trade thesis and you are, entering into a position, you're coming up with the plan of how and when you're going to get out. Do I want to lose $2 this trade, $200, $2,000, $20,000? What is it? What's my risk tolerance? Fat finger? Yeah, I've had a couple of fat fingers. Takes experience. Yeah, 3% max. Yeah, some people do 5% max. Some people only do 1%. I think one of the things that I've probably changed over time is, I started with a very fixed percentage. And I had some fixed dollar amounts that I wanted to, not necessarily wanted to earn in a day, but if I hit them on the upside or the downside, then I would be quite happy with my day in terms of I've made this amount of money, or okay, well, I need to stop now because I've lost this. I'm clearly not, in the zone. I need to just step away from the computer. And sometimes I hit my stop in half an hour. I'd be sat for half an hour, bang, done. Right, what do I do for the rest of the day? I can paper trade. Yeah. But now it's a little bit more adaptive. And that's partly, it's because of a couple of reasons. One, I'm far more experienced. Two, understand the market a lot more. Three, fundamentally can take more risks because of where I am in life. It's very different when you start trading and, your pot is X and your income requirements are Y. It's very different when you are a few years down the road and that shift has changed slightly. But one of the things that I probably can't stress enough is that there are times to risk more than 3%. The XRP trade being one of them. There was one of the LDO breakouts where I went very hard, and that will be one of my best trades of the year because the dollar amount was staggering. Because I did over a risk, but it was worth it. And if it didn't go my way, I was fully prepared for the consequences. But sometimes you get those trades that are kind of all the confluence that you need, and same with Ape. I took a massive trade on Ape for me, way back when, and yeah. By the way, it's absolutely brilliant that you answer a ton of questions. You actually see our questions. Yeah, this is part of it, right? So thanks to the guys at Bluefin for sponsoring it, obviously. And it makes it far more fun and interesting for me instead of just chatting at you and saying, look at this chart, here is where I'm going to long, here is where I'm going to short, for you to understand my thought processes, right? If you understand my thought processes, then you can come back next week to the stream and you can say, Charlie, I applied some of this, I tried to use spaghetti, here's an example, you know, feel free to shoot me DMs beforehand and all that kind of stuff as well. And we can go through some stuff on stream, like, because, you know, I use Spaghetti every single day. Like, this is what I longed. This is what I was looking at. I was looking at TRB. I was seeing that actually, yeah, there's this, you know, there's this nice high low here, and actually, you know, there's this cap in price, and actually this momentum, you know, this started showing on Spaghetti, and I longed into it, and what a great trade. Like, obviously, this is all fucking hindsight laughing, right? I'd have been asleep there anyway, but, you know, the point being that if you're using things and trying to build confluence with a trade thesis, then, you know, that gives us stuff to talk about. Great. Great. So what are my trades for the next coming days? To be honest with you, I'm not as well prepared for this stream as I would have liked to have been. Partly because I was doing a school run, drop off, all that kind of stuff. But Sui is very, very high on my radar, largely because of what we've spoken about earlier. So I will delete this bajillionaire trade, and we will talk about how I want to get on for a potential next leg. And we'll just delete some of this, so my sincere apologies. These were just levels that I marked out in terms of high time frame, potential take profits if you were to really go aggressive at a swing long. I mean, I think for me right now, how I want to get on board this is really simple. You know, meme diagonal break. We've got this level here, which has been respected quite consistently. So if you look at this in terms of support, resistance, you know, deviation and rejection, deviation, rejection, etc., etc. It's very clean, very respected, and that's what you know. People say levels are memes. Like, I genuinely don't think they are. I think there's quite a lot of trades that happen around levels. I think the fact that traders use levels would, you know, precipitate them into actually being levels, if that makes sense. So deleting all of my shitty artwork, let's just redraw it and just go for a very simple thesis that this is going to break out at some point. Now what I want to be doing is, let's change that, is I probably want to start scaling it some in soon, on the basis of this low is starting to show that actually there might be some demand creeping in. Now we've got these lower highs coming in as well, and probably no relative strength in terms of Sui. I mean, I can't even see it on there, so probably not, probably nothing. But you know, this is where I'd start. What am I doing? I'd start opening a position with bids layered down into here and a stop just down here. I probably wouldn't end up letting it get fully taken out. So if you start seeing that actually in terms of relative strength there is nothing, the safer play is always waiting for this kind of breakout and hoping that that move there is on relative strength, and then this is where you start going hard and you say, right, well, this here, where's my bloody, until I've not been at the PC much for the last couple of days. You know, this here is kind of my invalidation on that breakout, and actually the trade looks like this. You know, as a starter for 10, at least take these highs out. But really, if I want to be aggressive and I want to be bullish, you know, we were talking about targets like this former range low, this former high up here, etc., etc. And if you want to get super spicy and it really does start taking off, then target something like that. So again, a bajillionaire trade, but it's more about how you manage that as and when / if it's going. So if you can see the start of a rotation, for me it's just like, right, that's all I need. That would be my excuse to hop on board. And I know that looks fucking ridiculous, that's because it is. Especially given that I'm in a BTC short, but I think we will get a nice rotation on Sui at some point. And you know, remember that you don't have to just clip everything in straight away, right? You don't have to just yeet market absolutely everything at this price. You can have a couple of clips and just save your size for a bit lower down. You know, you can even get like a shitty little bounce And that average, the fact that you brought your average down, you can get out on that if there's no real movement, get out break even on what was, you know, an underwater position. So there is, you know, an art of execution as well. The only downside is obviously if you get caught with your pants down on a strong sell-off, but such is the danger of altcoins. So Sui is very high up my list. Perp, if any of you were paying attention to my TA masterclass, which was obviously a meme, the point was that range break, where did I tweet it? I tweeted it here, and you know, this whole pattern of breakout of a range, retest range high, and then continue on a high beta strong altcoin is usually a good trade, right? Usually a good trade. You need to understand some context for that, but yeah, it's usually quite good. And there's a free quote-unquote 7%. Yeah. Yesterday was one of the strongest altcoins. Today it continued to be, and there you go. Well, not the strongest, mind you. FLM was pretty good, and obviously TRB was, but yes, Perp was good. What's the next one that we'll go to? We'll probably finish on Pepe. So, had a thought process at the start of the week. So whoever was asking about plans and how to plan and do all of that, sorry, apologies. That was my thought process, that actually if we break down from this wonderful 4-hour range on Pepe, you know, it has basically been horrifically sold off. And what I would want to see is a sell-off and a reclaim, and that's what this alert was for. We have not had that. What we have had is a very strong, very brutal sell-off. Literally no strength, no reclaim, no nothing. But this, in terms of market structure, those higher lows, you know, in a bull market, you would just long it anywhere in here with a stop under here, and it would just do that eventually, right? I'm not suggesting I'm going to play the breakout trade, but I will probably play the range reclaim, especially if this is on reasonable beta. And again, this all depends on what Bitcoin is doing. This depends on the wider market context, etc. But if Bitcoin isn't shitting the bed, which it seems to be doing semi-reasonably, he says, while still in a short position, Pepe could be a good trade, especially if we get some genuinely positive ETF news. I expect that what we get is that Bitcoin rotation, where I'll be looking for a BCH long. We'll get a gradual move back to risk on to altcoins, and then we will probably move down that risk spectrum to risk on with things like Pepe, and that is where I would take a position, because I would be fairly confident in the general market sentiment. Not that I trade off sentiment, but where sentiment would lead to risk on positions, and we can see those rotations on Spaghetti. That would give me confidence to play something like this just to the range highs, and maybe beyond. But I think Pepe outperforms Doge, and I think Pepe will do better. Why Bitcoin short? Almost an hour already. Yeah, I know. First hour of the week. I know, it really does fly by. Why was I short Bitcoin? Honestly, it was just, I literally saw this weakness up here, saw this lower high, and just smashed short. And I already had a clip in from up here. And that was, again, there was literally, like, not much to go off. I don't think it was that. I think it was on the 5 minute. It was literally this. It's here, losing this. This kind of real shitty, like, RSI div. And the awesome oscillator div. Obviously, this wasn't there at that point in time in terms of that. But yeah, it was take a short up here. It was add to the short up here. And average in about 27380, I think it was. Maybe something like that. Yeah. And obviously just got very lucky that it just sold off. And now we've round tripped it completely. But yeah, I've got to stop somewhere up here. that's not quite accurate, but a few stops, and if it takes me out, it takes me out. So much alpha, good stuff. Cheers, Liam. You have to say that, they don't know you're a mod. So I'm going to do about 5 more minutes, guys. If you got any questions, any queries, anything like that, I think I've probably given you enough for the next couple of days. I think TRB will probably remain reasonably in play. I think FLM is shite, to be honest with you. I think Pepe come up, Sui come up. I think BSV is dog shit. I think BCH should be the one to watch if we get a bit of good news on BTC. And I think, you know, again, we talk about like levels, and some people don't like levels. I love levels. I think they give you a nice area to identify validation for your trade thesis, because you have to be wrong somewhere, right? And I think, you know, given the way that BCH is structured, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the kind of pullback retest of this, and then actually we just meander over this, maybe a little bit of an attempt to move up, but reclaim, and that reclaim of this 223-ish level with this form of support, rejection, 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 like that's quite pivotal for me. Support over here, like, yeah, it's quite pivotal. And that's how I try and think of it, is like, I will be bullish above this level, and I will be bearish below this. And then if I can use Spaghetti, Relative Strength, and RSI, and Awesome Oscillator to get on board, or even just basic market structure, then that's good. Best trade of my life? IOTA short, never mind, probably SHIB. No, the best trade of my life was Matic. And the reason for the best trade of my life was that it was the 17th of May 2021. Where I sold all my crypto. Because I am a god and I knew what was coming, obviously. I literally sold the top. That was Tuesday the 18th. Okay, so I didn't quite sell the top. But we had this ridiculously strong move on Matic on the 18th of May. And the next day, let's just replay this and see if we can snip the 4-hour chart. The next day, we had this, and this I traded. So I shorted Matic up here somewhere. 9 o'clock. So at 9 o'clock, I was shorting in here. Where was it that? Maybe it was a bit low. Maybe it was 2, 3. It was somewhere in this, because I basically went out the night before, came home. I was absolutely hammered. The whole market just took a nosedive. Matic did this, and in that scenario, there's one of two things. Longing that is an absolutely free trade, right? It happened with NEAR. And the market did like a 5% sell-off, and it was nothing crazy, and NEAR just stayed horizontal. That was a really good trade, because I got a huge size on it, and it just went boom as soon as the market recovered. Instant 10% candle, right? Really good trade, but not my best trade. This was, the whole market was selling off. Bitcoin was down 10%, and Matic had barely budged on the day, and the market continued to sell off. If you were looking at the tape, if you were looking at anything, it was just down, 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 down. It was fucking horrific. So I piled in on a short on Matic, and I closed somewhere around here, and I longed the move up as well. So not only did I ride it down, whilst having pretty much zero exposure to crypto, I managed to long the move back up, and it was like my best P&L day from a trading perspective in a long time, because I basically captured like huge move down, huge move up within the space of a day. And it was just like, I was euphoric whilst everyone else was down 75% on the day. So I didn't really talk about it on Twitter. I think I told XO and maybe a couple of other people who I was trading with at the time. But Yeah, that was my best trade, and the reason for that as well was that in the 2017 cycle, just so that I'm not just sucking myself off, in the 2017 cycle, I basically that's a long time ago. In the 2017 cycle, I did the complete opposite, right? I basically held the top, and yeah, I basically was like, I'd taken like from here to here, I'd taken like 10x out of what I put in, but I think I was then up like 33x on that number, and that's a sizable amount of cash in real terms, and I basically bag held it down to here somewhere, and I quit. And I said, right, I'm taking every penny I've got out of crypto, and I'm going to put it back in, only what I'm willing to lose, and I'm going to have like a business plan, and I'm going to do this properly. And I basically did it somewhere around here. So the experience of eating dick on this drawdown, and then not doing it the next cycle, and absolutely crushing the timing, part luck, part skill, that and riding it down, and then riding it back up on the same day, those two experiences just so wildly different. And like I sat back and I was just like, fuck, I've nailed it. Like, actually, and it takes a lot for me to like pat myself on the back, because usually I'm my own worst critic type thing. But yeah, that was my best trade in my life, and will probably always be that way, right? Like, so yeah, enough of me sucking myself off, but it was that in the moment reaction to what was an extreme event, liquidations just flying left and right, and Matic staying basically stable. It was bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Yes, any other questions, ladies and gents, other than how can I sign up to Bluefin? Link below. See how I did that? That was a smooth chill. I'm not a very good chiller. But no, genuinely, try it out. Thanks for the stream. Can you chat SPX6900? What's this beautiful divs indicator? Right, we'll do one thing at a time. And we will go... Do I have a Discord? Yes, the Paragon group. There is a link below if you are watching on Twitch. If not, if you are on the uest of tubes, I will send you the doofer. SPX6900. Is this a shitcoin, or are you actually wanting me to look at SPX? Because for me, I've talked about this a couple of times, just in terms of, extreme parabola. You can look at this two ways: Wall Street cheat sheet, which is that classic complacency shoulder, or you can just look at it on the principle of they're going to keep printing infinite money. Personally, I think that this is a good place for some consolidation. When you put that in confluence with the dollar strength that we've seen, I posted this a while ago, that if this was a BSC shitcoin chart, this is the exact setup I was talking about in terms of range high, range low, deviation, range reclaim. That's where you'd long. If that was a shitcoin, you'd long it. But for some reason, everyone's like, "Oh, it's the dollar. No, it has to go down." And even what we've seen, like during that period, like S&P's chopped. It hasn't just gone like this, right? I do think there's a bit of froth in AI and a few other bits and pieces in the S&P. I do think there is a time delay in terms of the flow through of interest rates and all of that kind of wonderful stuff, and how they impact company profitability, investor confidence, all that kind of wonderful stuff. Investor confidence, that's nonsense. Just in terms of like speculative returns of companies, they've probably loaded the coffers over the last couple of years in terms of provisions, which they're now having to unwind to support profitability. Now that that's done, they probably haven't got much left in the tank and in their back pockets to cover the fact that actually costs are rising, unless you're in Asia, starting to be a deflationary environment, etc. Like it's a bit of a mess. So I'm kind of more biased to chop than I am we're just going to yeet into range highs. Oh, sorry, we're going to yeet into new highs. I feel like I slightly butchered that, but hopefully you get the point. I'm growing a small account. Any advice? Thanks. I think you probably should focus on patience, process, and best practice over anything. And if you are growing a small account, like, I try and value things in terms of time, not money. So if I can go to McDonald's and do a job and I can earn £10 an hour doing that job, but I only earn £1 a day trading, well, trading is great, but I might as well go and do that job. So for me, it kind of all comes down to that, but I'm in a very different scenario. Hey, I want to work for you as a thumbnail designer or video editor. I mean, you can for free, mate. Hit my DMs, but I don't like paying for anything. Ask my wife. She'll tell you how much of a tight cunt I am. I don't trade stocks, no. For me, crypto is good enough, and I've just got no interest in stocks. I think there's more nuances in stocks than people would have you believe, and I think that I do not have an edge in stocks. So the beautiful divs indicator, by the way, is it's actually a Paragon one, but it's not too dissimilar from, if you just go RSI, KZX, that one. So you can have a look at that and do that. I've changed 2 things on there maybe, but yeah, that's a good one. And GCR is a legend. Don't know who GCR is, but one of the best traders of all time. Absolute hero. Yeah. Right. Well, thank you very much for all being here. I appreciate you all. If you are watching on Twitch, I might migrate this over to my YouTube account next week, because Twitch seems to be being a bit laggy. So if you want to do me a massive favour and subscribe to my YouTube channel, that would be amazing. Purely because then Magus will stop griefing me, because he's at like 9,000 YouTube subs and I'm at not even 2,000. Mewvelous. Excellent. But yes, thank you all wonderful people for being here, and I will clock off and see you next week. Au revoir.
He's BTC Charlie with his linguini charting. He loses sometimes, but hardly. He's BTC Charlie. But now he's GBP Charlie. It doesn't matter what he's charting. His trading is tough, but it's not all that bad with Charlie. He's got memes in the morning and more in the evening. It's Charlie. And when trading gets hard and support starts to lean, search Charlie.